What's going on, guys? Welcome back. And today I'm going to be giving you my ranking of all 10 movies I saw in 2019. Now, as you know, I didn't really like this year of movies. I thought there were a lot of disappointing films, but I will say I didn't see all of the big popular movies this year. I didn't see all of these three. I didn't see Terminator Dark Fate, I didn't see Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I didn't see Dark Phoenix. I also didn't see any of the Disney live-action remakes because I thought they looked bad and I didn't care. And also, I didn't see Joker, but I've heard Joker is a fantastic film. I'm not going to deny that. I can't really say otherwise because I haven't seen it. But once I watch it, I'll definitely probably give you a review. But I haven't seen it, so I can't really put it on this list. So I'm sure that it would be great. I don't know if it would be number one on my list, but I'm sure it would be a great film if I did watch it. But we're gonna just cut to the chase and start the ranking, guys. I mean, that's what you're here for. So anyway, starting off, we have Captain Marvel at number 10. Now, I don't hate Captain Marvel, but it does feel like another bland, generic Marvel movie with no personality and no style. And that's disappointing to me. It just feels like another Marvel movie, and there's nothing that it necessarily does bad, but there's nothing that it necessarily does well either. It just feels like a generic, simple movie. And by the end of it, the ending is kind of stupid. It's got a lot of bad CGI, and it's just her flying around shooting ships, and it kind of undermines her character arc, and when a movie does that, it makes you think back on, okay, what was the point of the rest of this movie? And there's some pretty huge plot holes in it that I noticed that just kind of make it be like, that kind of mess with the whole plot, and it's like, wait, if this plot hole's here, then like, why did the entire plot happen? It just doesn't make any sense, really, by the end of the movie, if you actually think about it. But I'm sure it's entertained people, it entertained me, but I don't think I'll ever really watch it again. And I don't really care to watch it again. It just didn't leave a profound impact on me, personally. You know, it was enjoyable for the time, but it doesn't feel like it'll be like a classic or anything. Like it's not going to be a special movie going forward. So that's really all my thoughts on Captain Marvel. Also, people need to stop over exaggerating the feminist idea of it. People need to stop looking at it as Brie Larson. It's not Brie Larson the movie, guys. It's Captain Marvel. You need to look at it as a movie and not just Brie Larson. If you don't like feminist stuff, whatever. But go back to the 1980s and look at Sarah Connor. Like, can you, try telling me that she is any different than Captain Marvel, you know? Like, people need to stop going with the whole feminist thing. I honestly feel a little bad for Brie Larson at this point. But coming in at number 9, we have Avengers Endgame. I'm sorry about this, but I don't like Endgame. I've been trying to tell myself it's a good movie, but there's too many plot holes, contrivances, and just too much bad writing in this movie for me to really fully care. And it's not like I'm not a Marvel fan. It seems like most people that don't like this movie aren't really full Marvel fans, and I've never liked them. That's not me, guys. Like, I have loved Marvel, and you know that from this channel, that I love Marvel. But this movie just doesn't work for me. Like, I've liked it less and less, and that's the complete opposite of Infinity War, where I've liked it more and more. It just feels like the biggest problem with it is the writing. The writing is so bad. And they just contradict past events, ruin past character arcs, such as Captain America, at least to me. And it just kind of shocks me how many people just blindly have loved it. And I'm not saying that all my fans are like that. I'm not saying that all my fans blindly love it. If you love it, I'm not going to judge you on that. If you love it, then I'm completely content with that. Like, I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change mine. I just personally did not like the movie. And I know that I'm not the only one out there who has said that. But I'm not just trying to say this for the sake of being spiteful. I just personally don't like the film. There are a few things that I like about it, but they're not enough for me to really put it that high on the list. So, Avengers Endgame is at number 9. And I'm wrapping it up here. This is the last thing I'm going to say about this movie. Is, rather than seeing it as the crowning cinematic achievement that so many others do, I see it as a shining disappointment of what could have been. That's all I'm going to say about Avengers Endgame. But moving on to The Rise of Skywalker. At number 8 here, I thought it was fine. I thought it was enjoyable. I don't think it's nearly as bad as people are going to portray it to be, probably over for a long time. But it was enjoyable. I really liked Kylo Ren's arc. But that's really only one character. It's a great musical score. So, something I forgot to say about Avengers Endgame. The best part of Avengers Endgame, by far, is the musical score by Alan Silvestri. That's my favorite score in the MCU, and probably my favorite film score of the year. That's the last thing I'm going to say about Avengers Endgame. It's a positive thing. But Rise of Skywalker, I think I like it more than Endgame just because it's a more interesting flop of a finale. Not like a financial flop, but a flop in terms of a movie and a bad finale, because it feels like J.J. Abrams was forced into making 2 movies into one here. It feels like he should have been allowed to make his own trilogy. So it's more interesting as to, like, what went wrong here? Like how did this movie turn out to be such a mess that it was? It's more interesting to me as a mess than Endgame, because Endgame just feels like the writers got lazy and forgot to write a good script. This movie feels more interesting because it's like, what happened? You know, it just feels like it's a very interesting mess, where Endgame is just a boring mess that I just didn't like. But moving on to number 7, we have the Lego Movie 2, the second part. If you saw my review back in February, you know that I loved this movie, and I probably almost liked it more than the first one. But the more and more I think back on it, just like a lot of other movies on this list, I enjoyed it, and I still can enjoy it and turn my brain off and just enjoy it. But there are things in this movie that don't make sense, and I know that sounds weird coming from a person who loves Lego, and it's a Lego movie, you know? But it's one of the weakest Lego movies, I think, and it's just like, there are things that they're trying to portray and messages and themes they're trying to represent that kind of contradict themselves and just don't make sense. So just the thematic way, the direction of the movie just doesn't make sense. Like, it keeps contradicting itself and just, it doesn't work very well. So that's all my thoughts on Lego Movie 2. I don't have much to say about it. I can enjoy it, but it just doesn't do anything for me anymore. And that's the thing, it's just like, this movie this year seems to be a pattern of me just disliking movies, or just not liking them as much on the second viewing. Because I really loved it the first time, just like Endgame, and now my opinion has just gone down a little bit because I've thought more about it. But anyway, moving on to Shazam. I like Shazam a lot, actually. This is where I get into just the area where I really like movies. The few, like, the 4 at the bottom are just like, oh. But this one I like. I like Shazam. I think it's the first one I can say is confidently a good movie on this list. Like, there are others where I'm like, I can enjoy it, but I don't really like it that much. I like Shazam a lot. I thought it was a good movie. It was one of my favorite villains of the year in Dr. Sivana. He was just a very unexpectedly compelling villain to me. I liked Shazam as a character a lot. I thought the cast was great. It was very funny, and it was emotional when it needed to be, and it's one of the best DC films thus far. I don't have much to say about it. I didn't like it as much in the second viewing. I noticed more issues with it, but I just really liked it. It was a solid, fun time at the movies. That's all that I can really ask for. Spider-Man Far From Home is at number 5. I like Spider-Man Far From Home, and I didn't like it that much the first time in the first few viewings, but the more and more I watch it with family, they like it a lot, and I don't personally like it as much as them still. But I can respect what they were going for, and I do respect what they were going for with Far From Home. Although there are still some narrative issues and some humor and, like, tonal issues. But if the biggest problem I've noticed is it feels like they're trying to tell an epic story about Mysterio and all this, and about his story, and it feels like things like his backstory just kind of get rushed past. And it feels like it should have been split into 2 movies, or should have been made into a longer movie. It doesn't feel like, as a 2-hour comic book superhero movie, it's long enough to comprehend all of these things. That's my biggest problem with Far From Home. But I still enjoy it a lot, and it's easily my favorite Marvel movie of the year. But moving on to Tolkien. This movie is obviously the biography or fictional biography of J.R.R. Tolkien. And as a person who loves Tolkien, who loves The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, as you know, it just worked well for me. It changes some things from the backstory of J.R.R. Tolkien, which don't really bother me. That seems to be the thing that offended most people. But it doesn't change it up, like, too much to me, that the point where it bothers me. Probably because I didn't really know much about his history before this, but it has that flavor to it that makes it feel like it tells his story convincingly enough, but also mixes in some of that fantasy and just that over-exaggeration and just the imagination of J.R.R. Tolkien. It just feels like his story, but it feels like it's given the imagination that he would have. It feels like almost the telling that J.R.R. Tolkien would want his story to have. It's just fun and imaginative, and it makes me feel happy because it feels unique, and I liked it. Like, even the filmmaking style while watching it I didn't love, but I just respect it quite a lot. But moving on to number 3, sorry. We have Toy Story 4. Number 4, Toy Story 4. I enjoyed it. I haven't seen it since I first watched it, so maybe that's why. I just haven't had a lot of time to think about it. But I want to watch it again, and I have had a lot of time to think about it. And when I remember seeing it, I remembered having a good time. And that's really all you can ask for. I think it does a good job at continuing the rest of the Toy Story series without making Toy Story 3 feel inadequate or pointless, which some people do. And I understand that people feel it's unnecessary, but honestly, all Disney movies right now are unnecessary. And it just feels like it's one of the better, most recent Disney movies. Being a sequel, I think it's way better than Incredibles 2. I think Incredibles 2 is pretty bad. This one just feels like it just works pretty well. It's just an enjoyable enough experience. And it continues the Toy Story series in a convincing way to me. I know that's not the same for everybody, and I can understand why some people don't like it. And, it's I completely understand some people's stances on it, but it just worked for me. It just worked as an enjoyable Toy Story movie. But moving on to number 2, we have Knives Out. I saw this movie, I think it's the most recent movie. No, actually, I saw Rise of Skywalker most recently. I really liked this movie. I thought it was really good. All the actors, it has a great cast. All the actors were great. The plot kept building in an interesting way that kept me engaged. And it just feels like Rian Johnson proved himself as a great director that should be given more credit. Because I know we got a lot of hate for The Last Jedi. But this is a good movie. And it was just out of all the movies that I thought were a fun time, it's just the most thoroughly engaging, fun time that I had very few issues with. And it just was the best job at making the movie that they wanted to make. They made the movie they wanted to make the best way they possibly could, and if you know what I mean. And it just worked for me completely. It was just a very entertaining movie, and I really enjoyed Knives Out. I thought it was great, but it didn't really hit me on the emotional level that my number 1 did. So let's go on to my number 1 film on this list. How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. I saw this movie back in February, and I might go and ramble on a little bit about this movie now. But when I saw this movie in the year, I was saying goodbye to a very important part of my life. Actually, let's not talk about that yet. Let's talk about things that are just superficial and that I really liked about it. It has one of my most favorite visual sequences of the whole year, where they fly into the hidden world and there's all those colors. And I want to watch that on Blu-ray, because I got it on Blu-ray, and I watched the DVD version last night with my family, but I want to watch it on Blu-ray and see what that scene looks like on Blu-ray. The animation is beautiful. I don't know how these people put this much effort into this film. There's a scene with Toothless in the sand. Amazing, man. I can't believe there are people that care this much and put this much effort into crafting an animated film as much as the people that put the effort into this film. There's a lot of great scenes, and the movie has a structure that maybe doesn't work for everybody. But for me, it feels like it all ties into the main message, which is Hiccup and Toothless have been the soul of this trilogy. And even when I don't like the movies, I didn't like the second one, they're always the heart and the soul. And Hiccup in this movie is in a different position than he has been before. Toothless is going off on his own adventure, and the whole series has been about maturity. And they became the leading duo of Burke at the end of the last film. But this movie is about them struggling with that. And the villain in this movie, Grimmel, who's my favorite villain in the franchise, is the thematic opposite of Hiccup. He has no compassion, and he hates everything. And he hates Night Furies, and he wants to kill them. And he serves as the thematic opposition, because in this movie, by the end of the movie, the resolution they have to come to is, we love the dragons, but at this point in time, the world doesn't deserve them. And we can't live with them because they're in danger. And they're always going to be people like Grimmel, the villain, who are going to hate dragons and are going to hunt them and try and kill them. But there will always be people like Hiccup. And the way that it ends is on a hopeful note. And I was going back to what I was saying earlier, is Hiccup is struggling, and he doesn't know what he's doing as the leader of Burke. And Hiccup and Toothless are growing apart because Hiccup has to learn how to become the leader of this village on his own without the dragons. And Toothless has to learn to become the leader of his village without Hiccup. And they've always depended on each other. But now they have to work on their own and realize what their strengths are on their own and how they can do these things on their own with the people that they love. For Hiccup, it's the Light Fury, and for Hiccup, it's Astrid, and for Toothless, it's the Light Fury. And by the end of it, it leaves you on this emotional note. But I know a lot of people don't like the final ending with Hiccup when he's older going to visit Toothless with his children. That works for me because it feels more like a hopeful ending. It feels like they're not contradicting themselves by leaving it on that note. They're leaving it on a hopeful note of a better tomorrow and of a better and it leaves me hoping for a better year of films next year. And when I saw this movie, it was at a time in the year where I was saying goodbye to an important part of my family history. Not like anyone died, but it's something that I've grown up with my entire life, and I was saying goodbye to. And the way that this movie, like, thematically shows that is that Hiccup is saying goodbye to Toothless, and it's a movie about goodbyes, but it doesn't mean that that is the end of it. These memories will always be with you, and this story of How to Train Your Dragon, this trilogy will always be with you, and my life story with this place that I said goodbye to will always be with me. So the time of year that I saw this, and the time when I saw it, probably made me appreciate it even more than I already did. But I just appreciate this movie so much, and like I was saying, the structure doesn't always work, but it is Hiccup acting irrationally, because he doesn't know what to do yet. But by the end of it, he knows what he has to do. And the ending just works so well for me, because it is the way that they ended is like hopeful. It's like we'll be waiting for a time when the dragons can come back, but that isn't now, because we can't do this right now. Like this isn't gonna work. But there will be a day when, like, the dragons can come back and we can live in peace. But like you're not gonna see that. Like that's not gonna be part of this series. You will see it someday, but you're not gonna see it here, and it almost leaves. I love movies where it, or like stories where they end you on a note where you can fill the story in on your own. That's why The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King is my favorite film of all time. It ends leaving you on a note of, like, ending the story in your mind and ending it with your own journey of your life. And this movie leaves it open to the rest of your life. And that's why I love it. And it leaves me excited for a better year of movies. Because as a year of movies that didn't work completely for me, this film ends in a way that I am looking forward to next year, the next year of films that we're going to get. I know I've been rambling, but I love this movie so much, and I wanted to let you all know. But, yeah, please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with my ranking? Do you disagree? Just please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below, and let me know your ranking of all of the films you saw in 2019. And if you saw more movies than I did, maybe just give me your top 10. Depends on what you'd like to do. But, yeah, please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And, yeah, just please let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And, as always, I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.